The story begins with two people who are fighting in the ring. We hear the crowd screaming Jeong Do-yeon. The two fighters who are sweating a lot are looking at each other for an opening to strike. The bald fighter strikes first, but Jeong Do-yeon dodges the punch easily. The bald fighter gets shocked and Jeong Do-yeon strikes with full force to the opponent's liver. The blow did great damage to the bald fighter, but Jeong Do-yeon follows it up with a right and left hook to the jaw. The impact was so great that the referee needed to stop Jeong Do-yeon. Finally, the referee stops the match after looking at his opponent. The crowd is going crazy, and we learn that this fight was his third defensive title match. We also learn that Jeong Do-yeon is only 20 years old, while pro fighters like Fyodor looked inexperienced in their 20s. The bald fighter is unable to stand up and grits his teeth. We move back to the changing room, and we hear that Jeong Do-yeon is calling his mom. He told his mom that the round lasted 2 minutes and 13 seconds. He also said that it was an easy win again. He asks his mom if she is home. She responds in the positive, so he said that he might be able to get home before dawn. He also says that he wants to celebrate. A moment later, we see the coach screaming if he is going home, and Jeong Do-yeon responds in the positive. He says to his mom that she doesn't need to wait and that she can go to sleep while leaving the door open. We see a couple of beer clinking to each other while Jeong Do-yeon and his crew are celebrating after the win. His coach asks why he is drinking after a title match. So Jeong Do-yeon says to take a look at him because he hasn't been hit that much. But his coach gets angry and says that he was supposed to not get hit at all. After Jeong Do-yeon drinks his beer in one go, he says that it isn't as easy as the coach think it is. We move back to the bald fighter at the airport, and he says that in 2-3 years Jeong Do-yeon will be a monster. Jeong Do-yeon, who gets home drunk with his Lamborghini, parks his car in the garage and asks a man if his mother is sleeping already. Jeong Do-yeon steps in his house and thinks to himself that the lights are still on. He asks his mother if she waited, but gets shocked to see a crowd of criminals surrounding his mother, who lays on the ground. The criminals asks if he is the landlord. Jeong Do-yeon can't believe what he is seeing right in front of his eyes and begins cry while saying mom. The criminal asks his fellow criminals if they got weapons. Right after, we see a blue-haired criminal launching at Jeong Do-yeon. But the crowd of criminals are surprised to see that Jeong Do-yeon hits the living shit out of him. The criminal says that he is not a normal kid and asks his fellow criminals to take out their knives. While launching at Jeong Do-yeon, they scream "Die fucker," but Jeong Do-yeon stands still with a serious face. 3 years later, we see a boy named Choo-sol. He started his high school life just a week ago. We see a bus arriving at its destination, which Choo-sol needs to take to go to school. While Choo-sol is entering the bus, we hear the following news: that the former mixed martial arts world champion Jeong Do-yeon is arrested for killing 4 armed robbers while they invaded his house. After a while, we see a crowd of students walking on the streets. But while they do so, we see a guard screaming that they need to run because they have just 20 seconds left before school. The Mick is running as fast as he can because if they don't make it, they need to run 10 laps in the playground. We learn that the Mick lives far away, so he needs to leave early to make it in time. The Mick walks in the classroom and he sees a familiar face. It's his childhood friend Yoon Jin-hui. She asks if he also tried to save his life today. He responds that his house is far away, so that's why he is almost late. She says that it is going to be very hard every day from now on. We learn that Jin-hui is a childhood friend since elementary school for almost 6 years. They didn't go to the same middle school, which very disappointed him, and because of that he couldn't see Jin-hui in his middle school life. We see a boy screaming that the homeroom teacher is coming. The homeroom teacher walks in together with a boy beside him. The Mig gets shocked after looking at the boy. He asks in a scared tone why is he here. We learn that the boy's name is B-seok. He is a transfer student. B-seok is a boxer who was scouted by the principal himself because this school recently got a boxing club. So the teacher asks the class to get along with him. He also asks to introduce himself. He says that he was a little worried because he was transferred from a faraway school, But while he says that, he looks at the mech and says that it is fortunate because there is a familiar face that he knows. The mech gets shocked and says why that guy is here. Bisiok says that he hopes that they can make good memories together and asks if they can take good care of him. The teacher says that the back seat is empty. So Bisiok walks to his empty spot, but while he does so, the mech is looking around nervously. The teacher asks if there is no one missing. He also says that he is going to self-study before the class ends, so they shouldn't be noisy. While the teacher leaves, Bisiok asks who he is around here. The black-haired guy is confused while looking at Bisiok. Bisiok says to the whole class that he is going to be the boss from now on. The black-haired guy gets up and asks Bisiok why he is so cocky. Bisiok smirks and gets up from his seat while saying that there is finally a guy who came out. Before the black-haired guy could respond, Bisiok hits him in the face with full force. He says to him that he knows that he is a boxer, so he shouldn't be here in the afternoon classes. Bisiok screams to the class, let this be a reminder so that no one ever comes at him like that, or they will also learn this lesson. While he is looking at the mech, he says that it is so nice to see him here. He asks the mech if he has been good. Chu Sol cannot respond because he is too afraid to do so. His childhood friend asks him if he knows that crazy dude, but gets surprised to see that the mech is too scared to respond, so she asks why he is acting like that. We learn that Bisiok is the one who tore the MC's life apart for the past 3 years. The mech says that he is the demon himself. We move back to the past where the man in the store says to the mech that it will be 2001, but just when the mech is trying to pay, Bisiok snatched his pay card from him. Bisiok asks the mech if he is from our class. He also asks if he has a dream tree card that he uses to pay things. The mech asks in a scared tone if he can get his card back, but Bisiok gets angry and says that the country pays money to beggars instead of meals to eat. He asks the mech if he even got a house to sleep and live in. The mech gets upset, and he says that Bisiok needs to give his card back to him while grabbing Bisiok his arm. This doesn't sit well with Bisiok, so he grabs the mech his arm while twisting it around. The mech, who is almost about to break his arm, asks why he is doing something like this to him. Bisiok explains that since he is a beggar, he doesn't understand, even as he played with him a little. Bisiok asks the mech if he is right, but the mech doesn't hear Bisiok because he is in a lot of pain. We learn that this was the beginning of the bad relationship the mech had with Bisiok. From then on, his life he had lived in his past was ruined. He became a slave rather than just a normal middle schooler. Every time when Bisiok had the chance, he beats up the mech in front of everyone, and as excuse he says that he has an upcoming fight, so he needs to prepare himself for that. The mech, his dream tree card, which had 4,001 every day, was being used to buy snacks for Bisiok, while the mech is starving day in day out. He even asks the teacher for help, but in the end even the teacher gives Bisiok only a light punishment and asks him if he is the one who works out and bothers the other students. Bisiok says that he was only playing around and that he is sorry. The teacher suggests to shake hands and to say that he will never do it again. Bisiok gives his hand to the mech while saying that he is sorry and that he was just playing around a little. The mech, who is dumbfounded, gets scolded by the teacher, who is saying that Bisiok learnt from his punishment, and asks why the mech is not shaking his hand. He also suggests to just shake and to go back to the class as soon as possible. While the two are walking back to their classes, Bisiok puts his arm around the mech and says that he needs to think about what would happen to him if he tells the teacher again, and says who does he think they will believe first, a beggar like the mech or a golden medal winner like Bisiok. He asks the mech who will raise a hand for him when is like a beggar, and says that he is getting a blast from everything that is happening right now. He suggests to have more fun in the future and says to the mech that he better is looking forward to it. The mech, who is dropping cold sweat, rushes to the bathroom, but while he sits there, 2 students knocking on the door asking if someone is still in there and suggests to come out since they need to clean, so he should hurry up. The 2 students get upset and asks who the hell is the person who is sitting there, but one of the 2 asks the other to look on the floor because he is seeing something. The second student is dumbfounded, but still looks anyway, but what he is seeing shocks the both of them, and he is asking in a scared tone what that is. One of the two doesn't want to wait and kicks the door open, but they see the mech lying there in a pool of blood and suggests to call the teacher there as quickly as possible. We move to the hospital where we see the mech who is waking up after what happened at school. The moment he is seeing his mother, he asks in a surprised tone what they are doing here. His mother, who is dropping tears, asks why he would do something like that without even hesitate about it. The mech tries to explain but thinks to himself that he was afraid to die, but he was even more afraid of dealing with Bisiok for the rest of his life, so that's why he tried to avoid Bisiok by killing himself. But in the end, he lied to his mom to make her feel more comfortable by saying that his grades dropped. We learn that that incident has ended with a short introduction in the local newspaper. But his harassment got even worse, and since that day he focused everything on studying because that was the only way to leave that hell place. He wanted to make a fresh start where no one knows him about him. And in the end, his effort paid off, and he passed his exams. He also was able to get selected for a scholarship for a prestigious private high school. The mech thought that would be but that wasn't what had happened, so we move back to now, and we hear Bisiok calling out the mech and asks how good he has been so far. Bisiok asks the mech if his bruises has been healed and admits to be surprised to see that the mech is here. He suggests that they will still be friends in high school just like how they were in middle school. He also says that he will ask for help for 3 more years, but while he says that, the mech thinks to himself what he means with that. Bisiok, who looks at the mech, gets angry and says why he has been silent for now and that it has been a long time since they last have seen each other. He asks the mech why he is wasting his words like that and says that he perhaps has lost all his senses. Bisiok suggests to give him a re-education from the start where they began. Bisiok gets more angry and shakes the mech's head around while asking when he is going to talk. He suggests that the mech wakes up to his senses and says that it is his old friend Bisiok. The childhood friend who has been quit the whole time steps up and smacks Bisiok his hand away while asking what he is doing and if he is a bully. Bisiok, who gets serious, becomes happy to see someone who does something like that to him. He asks if the mech is trying to be tough in front of a girl and asks the mech why he isn't telling him anything about it. Bisiok gets angry and kicks the table of the childhood friend and sends her flying to the other side of the classroom. He also says that he will beat her up until the teacher is coming. While the mech is dumbfounded, the childhood tries to stand up but fails to do so. The mech cannot take it anymore and suggests that Bisiok needs to stop doing something like this. Bisiok gets even more furious and asks what he just said to him while looking with a menacing face. The mech stands his ground and suggests to stop it at once. Bisiok can't take it anymore and begins to slap the mech while saying that he is a miserable bastard who don't know anything. Bisiok asks if he has gone crazy, or if he has gone mad. He suggests to say it again before he hits him again. Bisiok keeps slapping the mech waiting for an answer, but the mech keeps quit. In the meantime, we see that the childhood friend gets help to stand up. Bisiok asks if he really had gone mad and asks if he is helping him to get his memories back to him. The mech, who hasn't said a word to Bisiok, screams that he needs to stop hitting him and his friend. The mech tries to punch Bisiok, but Bisiok dodges it easily. Bisiok puts his hand on the mech's head and launches his head to the table with full force. He asks what a beggar like him is doing and says that it looks like that he has some tricks up his sleeve after all. Bisiok asks if the mech thinks that he gets stronger once he gets angry to take him down. He says if he thinks that he has some huge hidden powers inside of him. The mech, who is trying to get up from the Geowand, thinks to himself that Bisiok is an absolute demon. Bisiok asks the mech which arm it was that he broke the other time and says that for this year's goal, it is to break the other one instead. The mech gets shocked to hear so, but gets up and launches with full hate at Bisiok. Bisiok asks if he became a tough case just because he is in high school now. The screams at Bisiok with full hate in his voice. Bisiok responds that it is cool, but he can't touch him in a million years. Bisiok and the whole class gets shocked to see that there is blood dripping from Bisiok his eyes to his mouth. We see that the mech has a bloody pencil in his hands with which he stabbed Bisiok right in the eye. Bisiok asks if the mech has really lost his mind and if he wanted to kill him just now. The mech, who is scared, says that Bisiok deserves to die for everything he has done until now. Bisiok is shocked to hear something like that for the first time in his life. The mech, who is furious, launches at Bisiok while screaming that he needs to die now. We see the childhood friend who is in terror to see something like this for the first time in her life. The whole class jumps at the mech to stop him from killing him completely. One comes from behind to stop the mech, and another one comes from the front. In the end, they have stopped the mech from killing Bisiok completely and asks him if he has gone mad and that Bisiok will die if he continue like that. The mech thinks to himself that Bisiok needs to die before Bisiok kills him.